Yesterday, Mohan said that I love dogs. I said to Mohan, I do love dogs a lot. But I want to ask you a question. Why is it that it is said that dogs are intelligent? Why it is never said that dogs are intellectual? And the same question I am asking each one of you. That why is it that it is said that dogs are intelligent? I haven't heard anybody saying that dogs are intellectual. Simply because intelligence is inborn quality, whereas intellectuality is borrowed. Intellectuality is of the mind, of the head. Intelligence is directly from the heart. That is why an intellectual woman or an intellectual man is a boring person. He just keeps talking and talking. An intelligent woman, an intelligent man will say exactly that which comes directly from his or her heart. Intelligence is intellect in tune with your heart. That is what intelligence is all about. Intellect in tune with your heart. I am amused when I meet young men and women and they say that we are looking for a partner who is intellectual. Because intellectualism is a poor substitute to intelligence. But they don't understand because they are also intellectual. So it is an irony. And we should not make every person a wise person. Because every person doesn't have that depth of understanding. Any person who has positive planets in the 5th house or whose 5th house lord is strong is definitely an intelligent person. It is necessary to remember that you cannot become intelligent because intelligent is an inborn quality. The intelligence that you have is based on your past karma, your past birth karma. Intelligence comes only when you start walking on the path, on the Buddha path, on the meditation path. When you start turning inwards, only then intelligence comes. And this process of turning inwards, which is called penance or sadhana, comes under the domain of 5th house. That is how 5th house is so important. Intelligence is inborn quality. Intellectuality is borrowed. It is of the mind, the head. 5th house is all about intelligence. In the Kalapurush Kundali, the 5th house is ruled by Leo and Leo is ruled by Sun. Sun, the glory, the brightness, the shine, is all about intelligence. Sun is the consciousness, and intelligence comes only when you are living with consciousness, when you are taking efforts to expand your consciousness. And that is why fifth house moon is an excellent position, a placement, especially for spiritual progress. However, if you are a materialistic man or a woman, even then, the fifth house moon is excellent because fifth house is all about learning. The person likes to learn. Now it is a different question that on the spiritual path, first you have to unlearn all that you have learned so that there is some space within you. Because if you are totally full of all the knowledge that you have gathered, then how can the words of the master penetrate your being? That is why, on the spiritual path, unlearning is more important. But talking on plain terms, the fifth house is definitely good for material progress as well. Any planet which is a friend of Sun, example Mars, Moon, Jupiter, is good in the fifth house along with the Moon. However, the greatest and the staunch enemy of Sun, that is Rahu, if Rahu falls in the fifth house, then it is a very unfortunate position. Because fifth house is Vivek, consciousness. And if Rahu, the shadow, if it falls in the fifth house, then all you get is an intellectual man or a woman. Intelligence is lost, and that is why Rahu in the fifth house is a very unfortunate position. I am not saying that it will not give you some millions of dollars. You may become a rich man or a woman, but to me, the real growth is not limited to your money. And so I am talking from the real growth perspective, the inner growth. From that perspective, Rahu in the fifth house is definitely an unfortunate placement. It simply determines that the past life of the native, the karma of his or hers, have not been on the positive lines. However, Moon in the fifth house is definitely a positive placement. It gives you many good skills of acting, singing, performing on the stage. It is good for earning a PhD. It is good for studies. There are many things, many positive things that can happen with this placement. What are those? You'll find in this podcast. So let's begin. Love is at the core of this universe, and love is very closely connected with learning, because it is only when you love a certain subject that you can learn more about it. So love and learning always goes hand in hand. The power of love is so much that a common boy Ekalavya learned the art of archery without the guidance of any teacher. You know what was the secret? His love towards archery. When moon is in the fifth house, the native always loves to learn, and you will be able to learn and score well only when you are in love of the subject you want to learn. On a different note, it is only when you fall in love with a woman that you would want to learn more about her. Love gives birth to interest. That is why when a woman falls in love with a man, the first hint she gives is by saying, "You are an interesting person." It means she is drawn towards you, though she is still not sure about your feelings. Fifth house moon signify the native's inclination towards learning a certain subject, as well as it also signify that the native is romantic by heart. He often falls in love, which is good because without love, life becomes a dry, arid land. It is only love that brings oasis in one's life. And a man who falls in love with a woman can someday also fall in love with God. Falling in love is good. It simply states that the man or the woman is a follower of his or her heart. He or she feels more and thinks less. Between life and death flows the river of love. And a man with fifth house moon can experience this river of love because he understands the significance of love. He understands that there are only three mysteries: life, death, and love. And all these three are beyond mind. The mind cannot love. Always remember this. The mind cannot love, but the heart can. The heart is the center where love happens, birth happens, death happens. When death happens, it is the heart that stops. When love happens, it is the heart that dances. When birth happens, it is the heart that starts beating. All that is real happens in the heart, and all that is unreal happens in the mind. The heart is the center of our being. Fifth house is the heart. It is the house that is ruled by Leo in the Kala Purush Kundali. And Leo is all about love, because a lion has a big heart, and one who has a big heart has the potential to love. Love simply happens out of the blue. You come across a strange woman and suddenly something has clicked. You can't answer. She can't answer. Suddenly you find yourself moving in a direction together. Suddenly you find you're on the same wavelength. You fit in. And as suddenly it happens that it can disappear also. It is a mystery. You may live with a woman for 20 years in deep love and with all the joys of love. And then one day that climate is no more there. That vibe is no more there. You are there. The woman is there. And it is not that you have not loved each other. You have loved for 20 years. But suddenly, as it came out of nothing, it disappears into nothing. It is not there. Now you can pretend. That's what husbands and wives go on doing. You can pretend. You can pretend that still the love is there. But now life will become a drag. The joy is no more there. Always remember, love cannot be pretended and love cannot be managed. There is no way to manage love. It is bigger than you. It comes from the same source as birth and death. From where they come, love comes. These three things, birth, love and death,
come from the unknown. They suddenly enter you like a breeze and they suddenly disappear. You cannot solve these problems, but you can transcend them. And the way to transcend is to accept that they are there. And don't think that they are problems, they are mysteries. Once you start feeling that they are mysteries, suddenly you are in harmony with life. And then there is a celebration, there is a trust. This is possible only if mind is not allowed to play games. Fifth house moon native should be careful of not letting the mind play games and instead should focus on listening to the voice of his or her heart. Love interest is one major aspect of this placement. The Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan had a moon in 5th house, and his love for his favorite wife Mumtaz Mahal is well known. It is said that he built the Taj Mahal to house the tomb of Mumtaz Mahal, and later when Shah Jahan died, his tomb was also housed inside Taj Mahal. In addition to seeking love, the native takes deep interest in his or her studies. On a material level, the moon placement is good for scoring good grades in school, while on spiritual level, this is an excellent placement for doing penance, meditation practice and chanting. The subtle essence of this placement is precisely to focus on self-growth. Now, depending on the level of the native's consciousness, the effort towards self-growth is initiated. Some take to reading self-help books, some take to practicing meditation, while some take to chanting. But overall it signifies that the person is aware of the fact that he or she should continue to learn and unlearn to grow within. For a spiritual seeker, the very first step is to unlearn. Because unless you unlearn, you will not create space within you. And if there is no space within you, if you are already full with all your scholarly learnings and degrees, then how can the master help you grow? Remember, if you don't unlearn, then the master have nothing to give you. You are already too full. Moon in 5th gives a playful nature. The person is like a child, loves to play, dance, and is also mischievous by nature. Reminds me of the famous Hollywood actress Judy Garland. Probably the most beautiful actress whose charming persona and acting skills and her singing talent mesmerized the audience worldwide. Judy Garland indeed was an American icon, a great actress, a great singer. Judy's moon was placed in the 5th house. Her 5th house moon was placed in Mula Nakshatra. A quick look of Judy Garland's birth chart. Born on Leo ascendant, Purva Falguni Nakshatra, which is a Venusian nakshatra, she was a born beauty. Moon in the 5th house brings attraction towards acting, singing, performing in theatre. And she was a theatrical singer and a Hollywood child celebrity. And when she grew up, she became the most famous American actress of those times. However, since Moon is in Mula Nakshatra, she had severe problems with her mother. Her mother seemed to be exploiting her by using the money she earned. And a time came in Judy's life when she stopped talking to her mother. She completely cut off from her mother. She would not even let her children to meet their grandmother, whom she considered as an evil woman. However, this issue is not just specific to Mula Moon. It is necessary to observe that her 4th house Mars is also retrograde, meaning the mother was indeed a crooked woman. Retrogression signify crookedness in the character of the person that a specific house represents in astrology. The fourth house signify mother, and the fourth house retrograde lord signify a crooked mother. A retrograde planet either will bring crookedness or either will bring some abnormality, some emptiness in the matter of the house that it rules. Fifth house moon signify the possibility of several love affairs. Judy Garland had several love affairs as well as 5 marriages. She married 5 times, but every time she married, the marriage didn't last for long. As you can see in her chart, 7th house lord is with Rahu and Jupiter, and there is also Jupiter Rahu conjunction in the chart, which is not as bad as it is being depicted by the astrologers in India. 5th house moon constantly needs love. Without love, they feel lifeless. Judy Garland attempted suicide twice during her lifetime due to failure in relationships. Whenever love is missing or when they are betrayed in love relationship, they are prone to get addicted to alcohol or drugs. Judy Garland went through many breakdowns. She was admitted in hospital several times while her career continued to go through many ups and downs. Every time she was knocked down, she was able to rise back to glory with much fame and much recognition. She died at a very young age of 47, but left her mark behind. Indeed, a great actress of the 1950s. Her birth name was Frances Ethel. However, her screen name was Judy Garland, and that's what made her a world famous actress and singer. 5th house is your born intelligence. It is necessary to remember that intelligence is natural, whereas intellectuality is borrowed. Never misunderstand intellect with intelligence. They are polar opposites. Intellect is of the head. It is taught by others. It is imposed on you. You have to cultivate. It is borrowed. It is something foreign. It is not inborn. But intelligence is inborn. It is your very being, your very nature. 3rd house is all about intellectuality. However, when it comes to the house of sun, that is the 5th house, it is filled with divine intelligence. It all depends. If your birth chart is Rahuish, then you are intellectual person. Then moon in 5th house will become incapable of providing you with the inborn intelligence. However, if your birth chart is Ketuish, then moon in the 5th house provides you with great intelligence, especially if the 5th house lord is well placed or exalted in the birth chart. The result of moon in 5th house is solely based on what level of consciousness prevails within your being. The higher the consciousness, the higher is the intelligence. Sun signify consciousness, and in the Kalapurush Kundali, Sun rules the 5th house of Leo sign. The more consciousness you have, the more energy flows upwards. Intelligence moves upwards. Intellect moves downwards. Many great Pandits, scholars are born with moon in 5th house for the simple reason, and that is the quest to learn, to attain knowledge that this placement brings. However, the moon sign lord must be strong. If it is not strong, then the person will find it difficult to learn and score well in his or her exams. Whether you will pass or fail in a certain exam is based on the result of the 11th house. However, whether you have the ability The potential to pass is what the fifth house and fifth house lord determines. So, students appearing for CAT exams or for IIT exams should have a strong fifth house lord and 11th house lord placement. For spiritual progress, the placement of moon in the fifth house is excellent, especially for chanting practice, for mantra sadhana. If you are following ISKCON and if you have this placement of moon in fifth house, then you are on the right path. Because the whole purpose of ISKCON is to help you realize the significance of chanting. The founder of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada, emphasized on chanting the beautiful soothing Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, of all sacrifices, I am the chanting of the holy name. I am the japa. This chanting of Hare Krishna mantra is enacted from the spiritual platform, and thus this sound vibration surpasses all lower strata of consciousness, namely sensual, mental, and intellectual, says Srila Prabhupada. Many great saints and divine masters have emphasized on the importance of chanting. Guru Nanak has provided the Sikhs with Japji Sahib mantra. Mahavira has provided the Jains with Navkar mantra. Buddha has provided the Buddhists with the Shakya Muni mantra. Christians also have the practice of chanting, else you would not have seen the Pope with a rosary bead in his hand. So chanting is extremely significant to overcome the monkey mind. And moon in the fifth house is an excellent placement to recite the holy name of God and thereby attain progress on the spiritual path. Moon is one such entity that it simply brings great attachment to the matters of the house in which it is placed. Since fifth house signifies children, the native is often found to be attached with his children. Joe Biden has moon placed in fifth house, and his fate in regards to his children is very saddening. He lost his first wife and daughter in an accident, and then he also lost his son from his second marriage. Having gone through the loss of his daughter from first marriage and son from second marriage, his attachment towards his surviving son and daughter has grown with time, and that is natural. However, this placement of moon does bring certain challenges in regards to children, especially if the fifth house lord is not well placed or if the moon is placed in a tamasic nakshatra. Joe Biden's moon is placed in Ashwini nakshatra ruled by Ketu. Mother Teresa, known for giving shelter to orphan children, also has moon in fifth house. She was awarded the Nobel Prize for her great work towards uplifting the downtrodden men and women. Fifth house moon emphasizes more on love, and that's exactly what Mother Teresa was known for her unconditional love. One beautiful quote of Mother Teresa is, "If you judge people, you have no time to love them." Fifth house is directly connected with royalty. The person with this placement has much attraction towards the royal family or may also belong to a royal family. The Queen of England, Victoria I, was also born with moon in the fifth house. Incidentally, the former US President Donald Trump and his wife also has moon in fifth house. Their marriage was a love marriage. It is a coincidence that the outgoing US President Donald Trump and the incoming US President Joe Biden both have moon in the 5th house. Donald Trump is born with Cancer ascendant with moon in Scorpio, 5th house, whereas Joe Biden is born with Sagittarius ascendant with the moon in Aries, 5th house. Cancer and Sagittarius are staunch enemies. The former US President George W. Bush was also born with the moon in the 5th house. Overall, this placement has the potential to provide sharp intelligence, passion towards learning, attaining scholarships, attaining PhD, participating in competitions and examinations, as well as it gives great potential to provide great performance on stage or great performance before the camera. In other words, it is a great placement for aspiring actors and actresses. Also, it is a good placement for modeling. On spiritual side, this is excellent placement for seekers since it provides the potential to do intense penance, sadhana, especially mantra sadhana, chanting practice, as well as it is also good for meditation and adhering to a sattvic way of life. 5th house is the house of desires. 11th house is the house of fulfillment of desires. However, for an evolved soul, the way towards the self is by slowly overcoming the desires itself. And to do so, the way is the Sattva way. The Ashtavakra Gita says, strength comes from wakefulness. In Sattva, the wakeful state, there is knowledge and wonder. There is something very lively, but there is no desire. And the Bhagavad Gita further says that the way out is through Sattva way of life. However, as your penance grows, as you come closer to God consciousness, a time comes in your life when you surpass all the three tattvas, the Rajas tattva, the Tamas tattva, the Sattvic tattva, and finally settle down with yourself. Free yourself from the triple qualities, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, and from the pairs of opposites, eternally fixed in the truth, harboring no thoughts of receiving and keeping, be settled in the self, says the Bhagavad Gita. 5th house moon is indeed a sign that the native has been walking on the path of self-growth, especially if the 5th house lord is strong and well placed. With this placement, you have got all the possibilities in your hand. All you need is to take efforts and continue to walk and progress on your chosen path. And when you walk, walk with faith and not by sight. Let your faith be bigger than your fear. For faith is taking the first step even when you don't know where it is going to take you. Always remember, faith is not about everything turning out to be okay. Faith is about being okay no matter how things turn out. Love to each one of you. Stay blessed and remember to meditate every day. Jai Sri Ganesha, Jai Guru. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha.